seems like we have started. Recording in progress. Perfect. So good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to this live debate following this inspiring keynote speech, which is heard by Sam Garwin from Greenwave. I think that by today, guys, we can really say that seaweed farming generates substantial socioeconomic benefits to coastal communities. And in some communities, seaweed farming has even emerged as the most relevant livelihood strategy. Now, given today's rising global demand we are all facing for seaweed-derived products, plus looking at the pressures on our oceans, seaweed farming has the potential to generate even more socioeconomic benefits. But of course, only if the seaweed space builds on a sustainable approach that involves the community and integrates locally. And that is precisely the session that we are having today and the topic we're diving into today. So let's dive into this very exciting topic to explore collaborative models in the seaweed industry. And for that, I would like to welcome all three of you here. Klaartje from Mwani, Zanzibar in Tanzania, but dialing in from Dubai, Dodon from Mari Oceans in Indonesia, and Nick from Coast for Sea operating and dialing in from the Philippines today. So hi everyone and welcome to the discussion. Thanks for dialing in and taking the time to have this really exciting exchange today. So before we dive though into all of the exciting topics around collaborative models, may I ask you to briefly introduce yourself? What does your organization do? And tell us just a little bit about yourself so our audience understands who you are and actually where you hope to be in future. May I start with you, Klaartje?
Yes, sure. My name is Klaartje Schade. I'm the director of Mwani Zanzibar, and we are a seaweed skincare company with substance. We create effective skincare and have trained women for years to become artisans. So raising women from becoming farmers to actually becoming skilled artisans, whereby they are raised on the income pyramid.
Thank you so much, Klaartje. What about yourself, Nick?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I'm Nick Hill. I'm co-founder and CEO of Coast for Sea, social advisory, aiming to build the world's largest supply of regenerative seaweed that benefits the four seas of community, conservation, governance, and climate. We started off, myself and my co-founder, Mads Blanco, who's here in the Philippines. He got me into the seaweed space originally, but back 20 years ago, almost. He invited me out to do my PhD research on it. We built Coast for Sea off the back of that research. Really
Nick, sorry, if I may, would you...
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Out the way of the breeze.
Yeah.
Sorry, just hadn't seen that. Yeah, looking to understand, seaweed farming had been promoted as an alternative, as a livelihood opportunity for small-scale fishers in marginalised coastal communities for many decades, but it wasn't really delivering the promise that it had, both from a livelihood development perspective and an environmental perspective. And we were seeing a lot of environmental degradation around seaweed-producing areas. So Mads invited me to the Philippines to do my PhD research to really better understand that and look at what the entry points are and how we can improve the situation. And that led us to identifying the opportunity for Coast for Sea and the need for Coast for Sea. We've then went through a period of time, 15, 20 years, like working on within the seaweed industry to understand it, research and piloting different models of community engagement and so on. And then launched Coast for Sea last year and received our first investment as well from Conservation International Ventures, who's actually here with me today and listening in on another line. So that's fantastic. And now we're building that out and looking to build, as I say, the world's largest supply chain for regenerative seaweed.
So it's extremely exciting and well on you to get already first funding on that end. And now, of course, last but not least, Dodon, may I ask you to introduce your organization and tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you, Petra. Yeah, hi everyone of your good and health condition. My name is Dodon, as Managing Director of Mari Oceans. Mari Ocean is the community-based seaweed farming company based in Indonesia. We as mission to rebalancing supply chain seaweed business and also as pioneer sustainability business and seaweed commodity We working close with farmer, building sustainability together, and also adopt new technology, also sharing knowledge. We build our business model based on the farmer capacity, their resource, their knowledge, and also we learn from their experience and from their business practice. We also discuss a lot with the industry sides, what they needed, what their expectation in this commodity. So we acting as bridging between the farmers and also the industry needed. We want step by step our farmer go to the next level, improve their business practice, adopt good aquaculture practice, get a financial support, and also as same beginning when they're in the supply chains, and also reach their dreams. And also most of our farmer, and I think it's not just only our farmer, but all of the farmer all over the world wants this commodity is more sustainable, growing with the better quality, get the better price, also more balanced in supply chain. So yeah, that's Mari Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dodon. And if I may just follow up right on that, I mean, obviously, Mari Oceans is very much a community development mechanism. How do you actually involve, so what are the activities, how do you involve the local community to support the sustainable, profitable and equitable development of those local resources and the seaweed economy in Indonesia? You're muted.
Thank you, Petra, for the question. Yeah, before we launching our business model, we starting our journey, we do starting with our research. We visit around 9 locations with the different island, different culture, different ethnic, different language, and we learn from them. And also in the same time, we also visited all of the key stakeholders in this community. And from of them, if I can say, for us, the culture is the main social contract we can use in Indonesia. Culture means language, ethnic, and norms. Farmer or coastal community in Indonesia is more easy trust for someone who very close with them, especially in the culture. So same language, same ethnic, and same norms. Also, as same value is very important to building partnership with the community. And also in the same times, we mapping what their culture looks like, what the value driven, what their trust in their lives, and also what they respect. And from this, we choose support farmers. We say the champion farmers. We ask our agent of change to bring our value to the department. So yeah, social contract in our business model is cultures.
Understood. And I guess if we look at this global cohort we're looking in this panel here, Nick, you're dialing in from the Philippines to rebuild livelihoods opposed to that right now, right? And you mentioned earlier that Coast for Sea is building or works on building the largest chain of regenerative seaweed. What is the community role in your model compared also to the one that's just Dodon mentioned?
Yeah, there's definitely some similarities. Thank you, Petra. There's definitely some similarities in there. The community is a central ingredient to the whole thing. What some people may not, a lot of people around the world don't necessarily know is that many of us are working on eukaryotomatoid seaweeds. I think all of us on this panel are dealing with eukaryotomatoid seaweeds, which are the red seaweeds, and they're actually amongst the most cultivated seaweeds in the world, and they're grown entirely by small-scale fishers around the world, primarily Philippines and Indonesia, and also now expanding into East Africa, as you see with Zanzibar and Madagascar. That's growing out really well. So the community is actually absolutely central to that production, and they have the know-how and the ability to grow the seaweed. It's not an easy thing to do. If you look at the context of the algal seaweed growth around the world, or natural seaweed beds, they're in decline, and they've declined substantially in many parts of the world. So they're not easy species to grow, and it's actually the coastal communities and their local ecological knowledge that's really critical to the functioning of this industry. Where we kind of maybe differ from some other organizations is that we take a bit of a focus on kind of management of the marine resources more broadly as well. So we look at leveraging seaweed to empower communities to manage the coastal resources around them. So we actually integrate seaweed. This is what we mean by regenerative seaweed. We integrate regenerative seaweed practices into larger, more effective community-based marine protected areas. So marine protected areas are very successful in one way of people managing marine resources. protect and manage marine resources for the future. However, typically there are a lot of these, particularly in the Philippines. There's 1,800 community-based marine protected areas, but they're very small in size and they're not all that effective because they don't have a sustainable financing model. And what we've been able to do by integrating seaweed into them is expand the size. They're over 45 times larger in the eight IMPAs that we've now got in place. It encompasses 10 of our existing network of 35 communities. So they're an average of 720, some of them are 1,000 hectares, and we've zoned within that 282 hectares for ecological seaweed production. And really, seaweed is the kind of the keystone, the catalyst for all of that to work. But it's taking a fairly holistic view of people's livelihoods, recognizing that seaweed farming isn't done in isolation. It is done alongside fishing by most people, and most of those people are very dependent on declining marine resources. So it's looking to build the fish stocks at the same time as build sustainable seaweed. Another important point I think that probably Dodon and Lara will speak to as well is, we're in a bit of a race to the bottom in many places with seaweed because nobody's been investing in communities, in community production for many years. This is an industry that's been around for 40, 50 years. There just hasn't been that investment. Practices have stayed the same for 40, 50 years. The strains of seaweed have stayed the same. Markets have developed where people are incentivized to cheap a system, and so the quality of seaweed is declining. Industry is really struggling to get the quality and reliability of supply that they need. So now is the time where we really need to start investing in those coastal communities, building their capability to grow a more sustainable seaweed industry.
Thank you, Nick. And I think you've touched upon quite a few elements here that that talks about the global seaweed industry, but can also be experienced in different magnitudes in different locations, right? And Klaartje, if we look towards your organization in Zanzibar, you focus more on ethically committed clean beauty brand, as you mentioned earlier, right? So there is a clear product at the end that you are also trying to develop. For you, and I think you call them the seaweed farming mamas. How do you involve them in your model? And is there a few things that that you experience as well, that what Dodon and Nicholas already mentioned, or that is completely different in your experience?
Well, I'll echo a lot of the thoughts of Nicholas and Dodon. Our approach has been slightly different in that we're a social enterprise, and we identified that there is 23,000 seaweed farming women in Zanzibar, but unfortunately they all earn extremely low incomes, which is about $30 per month on average, which even in Zanzibari terms is 3 times less than the minimum wage, sadly. So our approach has been to produce a finished product, which is of a significant value, of high quality, whereby we can afford to pay our artisans, who are seaweed farmers that have been trained, very good incomes. So they're currently earning 800%, at least 800% above their peers. So that's been our approach, and we're trying to scale that up. And we've got a strategy and a launch that will get us on that path to impact more women. But I really commend Nicholas and Dodon on trying to impact the full seaweed population, and we'd also love to get much more active on that. But the route that we've so far taken is kind of stabilize ourselves as a social enterprise, kind of have the cash flow, train our women, and from there branch out and try and increase our impact with the larger seaweed community.
So I hope that exactly this exchange will spark a few additional ideas in all of your enterprises. But Klaartje, if I may follow up, beyond, of course, obviously the training, so skills development, as well as the better income, are 2 key benefits to involve the community, or to involve the women. Do you also look at involving the community a bit more broadly? And what are the benefits there for the entire community? As soon as you started managing seaweed a bit more specifically, and what I would be really interested in is, what did you personally feel was the most difficult part in ensuring the right involvement of the community?
Well, we do have our hands in a few pies, if you can use that expression. We are very interested also in general in ingredients that are biodiversity friendly. Africa is of course known for its rich biodiversity, but with the growing population, there's a lot of pressure, which, if nothing is done to sort of slow that down, that will bring significant sort of degradation of the environment. So our approach is again to invest into ingredients as well as seaweed that are biodiversity friendly. And then in terms of actually including the community, it's very much into also, it's not just income, but it's also very much lifelong learning. So the fantastic thing is that our women have been with us from the start, and we're not by any means a traditional company in the sense that the women came, the only credential that the women had to start with us was passion. There was no educational background to speak of, no work experience. Some started with us as their first job and they were 45 years old. So it's been very much a labor of love, and sounds a bit like a cliche, but it's been a growing together understanding and exchange and experience, because they've gained a lot of independence through the whole experience. For example, our women, not to go off topic a bit, but our women have started voting, and very often they've also really voted for parties that are contrary to the rest of their family. And of course, this isn't something that we encourage, but we just allow the women to just thrive as independent people. And we've noticed that working with us and having their own income, they've been able to make their own decisions in life, build houses, decide where the income goes. The children are staying in school for longer. Most of them are going all the way. About a year or two ago, we got the first girl going to university. So it's we're big believers in supporting women. That's our focus. And also in creating value-added ingredients. So rather than just sourcing the raw ingredients, it's about letting them add value to it and reaping the benefits from that. Because of course you will see a lot of skincare companies or companies in general who buy fair trade, and that's a step and that's excellent. But of course, if you're buying fair trade, I mean, our seaweed in Zanzibar is 26 cents for 10 wet kilos of seaweed. So if you do the maths, even if you pay 3 times as much, that person's not going very far with even a fair trade income. So although that's a significant improvement, what we really hope to see is actually investment into value-added processes. Sorry if that was a bit long.
No. I think it was extremely key, especially to see, how far, a focus on seaweed can go beyond the actual product, and think that is an extreme value add and important to realize, right? And if we look into Indonesia, Dodon, you mentioned earlier also the social contract and quite a few benefits as well that you were able to already identify or deliver to the community. Are there also some of them that are similar to what Klaartje has just mentioned? Is there something that where we really need to pay attention to be aware that if we grow seaweed as an industry, this is not only about the product, but this is also about benefits to the socioeconomic side?
Thank you, Petra. I think I fully agree what the problem, what Klaartje found in the Zanzibar is same condition in Indonesia. We identify several challenges to partnership with the community in our model. Of course, the main challenge working with communities, the first, there are very unique characteristic. I think it's same like Philippines in Indonesia. Farmer will be adopt your business model when they see the results. So in the beginning we must focus our business model first, and after the farmer see the results, our farmer looks like get the better benefit, get the better income, there will be join, and this happen in Mari right now. The second is most of the farmer is very pragmatic. We need showing their potential. Looks like what they can achieve in the business in the beginning, before we starting our business model, we conversation we asking with the farmers and asking about their dream next 5 years, next 10 years, what they want achieve in the next 5 years and 10 years. And most of them is afraid to ask a dream because they say like, Mr. Dodon, I'm just a farmer. I just want to today and next day. And after that, I thinking for next day, they are afraid to the ask dream because they see us. They are low income, they are marginal, they're not as confident anymore about their business looks like. And yeah, for more details, composition you can see in our website in the Mario Sense. And after that, we showing the simulation. We see their potential. We see what they can achieve, and we choose pipe farmer. Like I say, we choose the pipe farmer as champion farmers. Now, pipe farmer is starting harvest this week. So another farmer showing what Mari is different with the another company, and their approach is something new. And some of them coming to our warehouse, to our office, and please, I want to join with Mari. So this how the community perspective looks like. There need open your business model first before they join. And also most of the farmers are ready to dream to give their children with the better education, give the better house, and also most of them like in our farmer like ready to dream to going to Mecca for Agile. So it's fantastic results, even is not is still in progress.
Thank you, Dodon. I mean, both of you have just, I think, outlined extreme benefits that Seaweed can really provide to the community, from, you know, expanding from a short-term view, right, to a long-term view. What you just mentioned, Dodon, right? Gaining independence, voting, even identifying or helping farmers also see their own potential and gaining agency through that. I think that is a benefit that is one of the key things for a sustainable development, right, of a community. Now, if we flip the coin, and Nick, you're gonna get that the question now. We flip the coin and think about, well, what are the main challenges, or what were the main challenges on your end, basically, to include the community in your organization? What was that you know, was really challenging, and where you had to find new and different ways to do so?
Yeah, thanks, Petra. That's a great question. And I mean, it's important to recognize that in places like the Philippines, Indonesia, all of these places we're talking about, there's been established traditional value chain structures in place for quite some time. So there's existing relationships with traders and supply chain relationships right the way through, but those haven't been delivering much benefit down to the seaweed farmers. As we talked about, there's not been a huge amount of investment into those seaweed farmers, and they're not receiving a very high proportion of the value share. It's interesting hearing what Lara says as well, because I think, you know, that those prices are so low, and it might be because they, you know, we're lucky here in the Philippines with Cebu, quite really close by. There's a kind of critical mass, and there are processors nearby, and the price of seaweed is so much higher because there's so, you know, it hasn't got as far to go to get to market for those other uses. The value adding is absolutely essential and really key. But I think the big thing for us was to figure out, how do we actually break into those existing value chains? How do we modify them? How do we play a role without disrupting and causing chaos? Because it's important to note they're very, whilst on the outside, and a lot of people like to characterize them as exploitative and all sorts of other things, there's actually a lot of barriers to all the actors in that value chain. And like local traders, for example, they're doing the best they can to provide income and support, inputs, materials, and finance to those seaweed farms they possibly can. But it costs them, and they have to be able to recoup some of those costs, so they might not be paying a reasonable, what we might consider a reasonable price for the seaweed. So how do we integrate ourselves within that context? And in fact, what we realized we had to do early on, this is going back sort of 2010, 2011, was that actually maybe we shouldn't start with seaweed, because if we got it wrong, there's too much potential to cause an awful lot of damage and impact and disruption to existing value chains, create dependencies, and it really have a big negative impact on people's livelihoods. So we started off developing a community model that actually piloted with end-of-life fishing nets. So we diverted end-of-life fishing nets prevented them from going into the ocean, and sold them. We bought them from the communities and sold them on for recycling, aggregated them and sold them on for recycling, and they ended up being turned into carpet tiles, fashion, and that gave us a really great experience that we could build on, gave us a chance to innovate how we could develop a community-based model that really delivered, kept the value share, as much of the value share as possible, enabled us to innovate on those processes away from the existing traditional supply chain structures of big warehouses in central locations and people going out and buying seaweed that isn't very well processed and not very good condition and needs an awful lot of time being spent on it. That's where the value gets. So how can we really add value, make sure that the support communities can create a really good, strong quality product? So that's one place where we started, and we also realised that we needed to be able to provide additional services to these financial services and so on, not just directly sales, but empower financial inclusion.
Sorry, Nicholas, I think if you lean back, sound is better.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Good, thanks there. So financial inclusion, empowering particularly women who are a really big part of the value chain here in the Philippines, and I believe in Indonesia as well. So it's a very important livelihood for women in these communities. But what are the opportunities to help provide financial inclusion? So we did that through a community banking model that effectively formed a basic cooperative model that we work with in the communities, because cooperatives themselves don't have a very good history or track record here in the Philippines. So we created this kind of grassroots type model that's centered around financial inclusion, financial management, and that enabled us to create a much stronger community model that we could then build Seaweed into as well. So that's what we've been doing for the last few years.
That sounds very inspiring, and I think there was quite a few key learnings around there, especially around the financial inclusion. The other element that you just mentioned was that you piloted a few things, right, to see how the supply chain works. How do you make sure that you have the right infrastructure in place, or where we should be? What were sort of the most surprising success factors that you identified along this way that ensured that this value streams, or that the value really gets to the community and doesn't cut out the farmers at the end, as it was with the, let's say, the initial structures as they were set up, or the traditional ones?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And for me, I think, and if we ask the team, who are all local, many of them are community organizers from the Philippines. They've been working in kind of development and environmental space for a long time. I think the thing that was most surprising and most pleasing was seeing the empowerment side of things. A lot of these communities are treated as marginalized. They're treated as though they require aid constantly. They're constantly on the receiving end of handouts and so on. And not so many people have focused on building their capacity, their internal capacity to organize, to look at what they can actually achieve and do themselves. So and Dodon spoke to this a little bit earlier, but when we started off, a lot of people didn't believe that they could do it. They didn't believe in these communities that it's possible to do what we were talking about and suggesting. So getting that early buy-in, you have to get those first stage adopters, those early adopters, and then other people come in and they follow. When seeing is believing in these communities, this is, I think, something that Dodon mentioned, and just seeing how quickly that belief and confidence in the communities built was really inspiring for the team and for myself as well. And it's a really kind of a turnaround from the traditional way of supporting community development in these areas.
Thank you, Nick. And I think one additional element, right, that you just from the elements that you all have mentioned along the way, as in terms of what worked and what are the success factors. Then I think in your space, right, you are also very much into looking at scaling up your model. But I think from an enabling environment point of view in Indonesia, right, what is your environment around it? Is there things that need to be ensured from your enabling environment that need to be considered so that you can be successful with Marry Oceans?
Thank you, Petra, for the question. Yeah, if we see the supply chains, like Nick mentioned before, is around 7 until 9 actors in the supply chain. So every single supply chain not too much give the added value. Some of them just find the margin. That's what Mari wants, rebalancing. All the impact is more going to the farmer, going to the community. That's why we must, if we say we must design every single business model we want to sustain in this commodity. It must coming from the bottom up, asking the farmer what the problem, asking them what they want, what they needed, and also see they're not just a farmer, but see they as entrepreneur because they're running a business, not just a growing seaweed, just object, but they're also subject. So they ask power to access to better life, access to better quality. We just need help them with the farm management. And one of thing is very important. Sometimes the problem not just in the farm side, just on the growing sides. But when the price is better right now, the price, the cotton is very high right now. The problem not just in the growing side, but in the financial management. That's why we also help them with the cooperative initiative. We building this cooperative to give more impact to our farmers. So they also get the financial literacy for the women, for the all of the women involved in this business. So farm management, financial management is the most important thing we must provide to our farmers in our community. And the last but not the least, I think, is data. We also put our sensor in our sites, and every week we provide data to the farmers so they can see how the correlation between the environmental and the growing side their seaweed looks like. So we want our farmer going to next step and that level and get the access to data. So yeah, I can say a little bit is they manage their farm with the data driven.
And I think this is a very, very key point as well in Marioceans, right? Maybe can you expand a little bit more on how do you collect data and how do you make this available to the communities and how do they use it? I think nowadays, so many things are data-based, so many decisions are data-based, and I think it's absolutely fantastic how you bring this data-driven decision-making also to the farmers.
Yeah, thank you, Petra, for the question. Yeah, we starting this journey with a research, like I said before, and we collect the data, we collect the baseline, what the problem in the community looks like. From this data, we can see several challenging in the sector. From this, every single challenging, we provide like option or say services. The first is financial support. Mostly financial support just focus in the trader and the buyer, not in the coastal community. That's why in Bari, we provide them with the finance, facilitate them to get the financial support from the financial services. And the second is about the quality, the seedling. From our research, from our data, they use same seedling year by year. Sometimes they use seedling last 5 years. So we need provide them with the superior seedling to get the better quality. The second is they know about the characteristic, the climates, but they didn't know exactly what their data needed, like salinity, pH, and others. And we provide our sensor and we collect the data and we see the correlation between the sensor data and also the growing side looks like. So after that, we discuss with farmer what the problem with you, and also we provide a dedicated officer. So it's like officer working with farmer, discuss day by day with farmer what happened, what the problem, and asking every day what they feel, what they see in the result, and compare with the data we collecting. And so yeah, we want all of the decision is based on the data, and also we want this business is more transparency in the future. So the financial services is comfortable and confidence to give their loan and credit to this commodity, to this commodity looks like. So yeah, that's how the data is very important for Mari and also for our farmers.
It's a very crucial and interesting thing, right? I mean, yeah, data-driven decisions are one thing, right? But I think all of you have mentioned across all of your answers, right, that on the one hand, of course, informing ourselves based on data is one thing, but the other flip side of it is the local and traditional knowledge, right? People know their place. So Klaartje, if I may direct this question to you, what is key from your perspective to efficiently integrate this local knowledge, the local capacity, the local leadership to invest back into the community and secure those financial streams and other value streams are ensured to come back to the community.
Okay, well, I think Dodon's already touched upon it quite a bit. What I would really echo what he said in terms of self-belief. We have the same in Zanzibar, where women don't really believe that they'll go very far or do very much. So it's actually it's throughout the change within our social enterprise. It's always been taking the women to, the next step, and proving to them that they're actually very much capable of even going further than what they see. And in terms of involving the community, it is very much listening and having that respect. And I believe if you look carefully and listen carefully, you'll get a lot of very precious lessons. And in that sense, I would say that with our company, we've grown very organically and taken time to develop. And that is simply because it's an exchange rather than going somewhere and having an idea of exactly what you're going to do, execute it, no questions asked. It's very much an exchange between different cultures, and that's a communication that takes time to build. And also I think what Nicholas said as well is very important is, of course, a lot of us are very focused on income and all that. But it's not really about that, because there's a lot of this culture in developing countries of handouts and financing, and very often the financing sort of gets lost somewhere along the way or doesn't really deliver the results that you'd like it to. But it's actually much more about actually the most effective change is really affecting lives. So through lifelong experiences, training, learning, I think that's the most important thing. And in that sense, we're also very proud that the women have really earned their roles. They've earned the craft that they have. And I think that's very important and tangible to everybody.
Thank you, Klaartje. And I think this was a wonderful summary of quite a few things that we have discussed today with additional perspectives. And I really wanted to thank all of you guys. We're running up to the time now, but thank you, Klaartje, Dodon, and Nick, really for sharing your stories. I think today we have discussed quite a few different ways of how communities can be involved, shared experiences and challenges, believing that there is not only a value, or there is a key to exchange with the communities locally, but there is a real value also in global collaboration and exchange to ensure that we can achieve sustainable development and innovation in the seaweed industry. You have all shown that bringing together seaweed organizations and community can provide an excellent platform for connecting local leadership, data, community, the industry, and really ensure that we get there over time to ensure that we have long-term well-being of the local communities and that we can have a sustainable development in the seaweed industry. So I think this was a very resourceful exchange, and I hope that you and the audience have been able to gain a few new perspectives on how powerful it is to empower the local communities and to build resilient regions, societies, and groups that have maybe not been focused on so far. So thank you, all of you. It was really wonderful to exchange with you. And I hope you're going to have a wonderful time also to listen into some other sessions and look at the different fair elements that have been offered by Seaweed around the clock. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.